Dobrodošli u još jedan online podcast Mrežnica. Naš današnji gost je profesor Reiner Rothfuß. Profesor je političke geografije i njemački političar zadnje 2 godine, zastupnik u Bundestagu, odnosno u njemačkom parlamentu. Nekada je bio član CSU-a, odnosno Kršćansko-socijalne unije, stranke koja bi sada trebala biti u vlasti, a onda je napravio zaokret. Otišao u AFD. Danas je zamjenik predsjednika AFD-a za Bavarsku. A upravo je AFD na nedavnim njemačkim izborima napravio po mnogima sjajan rezultat. Osvojili su gotovo 21% glasova njemačkih birača. U čemu je tajna AFD-a i zašto su uopće dobili toliko puno glasova? Podsjetit ćemo, ovu stranku opisuju kao ultradesnu stranku. Njene članove optužuju za ekstremizam i tvrde da Njemačku vraćaju na postavke crne povijesti za koju nitko od nas ne želi da se ponovi. U istoj rečenici s njima često stavljaju i riječi poput fašizma i nacizma. Uz to AFD upozorava na rast nesigurnosti u Njemačkoj, na kulturološke sukobe, ali i na troškove migracije. S druge pak strane, Njemačka priznaje da joj je potrebna radna snaga. AFD-u s godinama raste popularnost, a onda im rastu i neprijatelji. Članovi ove stranke su od intelektualaca pa preko srednjeg staleža do obrtnika i poljoprivrednika. Imaju imidž anti-establishmentske stranke i tvrde da ih mediji žele ušutkati jer predstavljaju glas običnih građana. Trenutno su druga po veličini snaga, odnosno stranka u Njemačkoj. Dobili su, vjerujem da to je, znate i sami, strahovitu podršku Trumpovih ljudi, milijardera Elona Muska, ali i potpredsjednika J.D. Vansa. Ipak, njemačke sigurnosne strukture označile su ih kao ekstremno desničarske, odnosno slučaj za promatranje. Razlog su brojne izjave stranačkih dužnosnika koje su, kako tvrde neki, dovele u pitanje ravnopravnost njemačkih državljana stranog porijekla. Unatoč ovom uspjehu AFD-a na izborima, lider CDU-a, odnosno CSU-a, Friedrich Merz i vjerojatni budući njemački kancelar isključio je mogućnost koalicije s AFD-om. Rekao je da AFD želi da Njemačka napusti Europsku uniju, ukine euro i vrati njemačku marku, te da prekine vojnu podršku Ukrajini. Želi to suprotno od onoga što mi želimo i zato neće biti suradnje, rekao im je Merz. Sad, sve su to razlozi, odnosno pitanja koja smo danas postavili našem gostu, profesoru Rothfußu u ovom podcastu. Uvijek valja čuti u životu čim više strana, čuti čim više mišljenja, a onda misliti i zaključivati svojom glavom. Dobrodošli još jedan put u Podcast Mrežnica. Professor Reiner Rothfuß, thank you for joining us. Good to have you with us today.
Thank you.
The result the AFD achieved is excellent. How do Germans think? Why did German voters vote for you? Germany is yours, let's say so. How do you explain that?
Well, it's a very special situation we are facing in Germany as Alternative for Germany. We were founded in 2013, so just 12 years ago. And we criticized from the start the German policies. First, we started with criticism of Euro policies because we felt the result of the Euro that the purchasing power of the individual German citizen went down and down and down. And then the rescue operations for Greece, for example, costed a whole lot of money. Of course, it didn't even reach the Greece citizens that much, but rather German banks that gave loans to Greece. But the whole construct of the euro proved to be very, very shaky. Because very different economies in very different shape were bound together in one currency. Then in 2015, the huge migration crisis came up, and we focused on that topic. Of course, we have other topics like the very vogue policies of gender issues, transsexuality, and so on. And we also focus very much on the criticism of green transformation in the European Union, because in Germany there has been exaggerated a lot to invest in solar power, wind power, even though it is not stable energy provision. It doesn't provide energy during nighttime or when no wind blows. And we as an industrialized country, of course, need a stable energy grid. And so from topic to topic, we always proved after a certain time to be right, even though people at the beginning didn't understand us and our positions. So it was easy for the political competitors, the other parties. It was easy for the media, who are, of course, instrumentalized to keep the existing power structures in place, to demonize us as being radicals, as being ignorant of climate change, etc., as being xenophobic, homophobic, and whatever phobic. And people tend to believe this, at least in the western parts of Germany. In the eastern parts of Germany, people think differently. They are quite independent in thinking and making up their minds because they had gone through that experience of 40 years of GDR and bombardment with state propaganda. But in the West, people tend to think, oh, what the mainstream media tell you is totally right, and all the experts prove it, and experts are real experts and are neutral. So in the West, we really had a very difficult time since, I would say, 2 years ago. And then our survey results started to rise really strongly over 2 years, just with one little valley that was created through a media hoax. They just told people, oh, we plan to deport all the foreigners, even people with German passport, but migration background, which is, of course, complete nonsense. But people believed it again. And now we went up, and we landed at 20.8% for this federal election now. And I feel it's not the end, but it's the beginning of people waking up, emancipating themselves from the steered thinking, steered voting, steered by, of course, those who are in power in media and in the government so far. But we will be a ruling party sooner or later. That's my conviction.
Okay, just to clarify, here in Croatia, just like in the Western countries, you are presented as a dangerous party, radical party. Behind all the stories about the AFD is the fear of dark forces. We could read that Germans are afraid of returning to Hitler's settings.
Yeah.
How extreme is AFD?
This is complete nonsense. I mean, we hate the political system that Hitler had set up at those times, at those dark times of Germany. We hate this system because what was Hitler standing for? He was standing for total control of what people think and do. And everyone should behave in the same manner. And that's what the present forces in power ask from people when there is a COVID crisis out there, which was exaggerated or maybe even created by those in power. Well, where did the virus come from? In the United States, they're already clear about that. It has been created in biolabs, and they abuse the virus to steer people's thinking through fear and to make them obey and do whatever they commanded. And we were the party who said, no, please leave it up to each citizen to decide how to confront such a health crisis. Nobody knew exactly what it was about, but it's our conviction that people should be free to decide for themselves. So where is Nazism in this thinking? The others wanted to make compulsory vaccinations for everyone, and we really confronted this in Parliament. And it was Alternative for Germany, together with millions of Germans who took out to the streets, who fought this law. And so there is no parallel to Hitler's regime. We find it evil, we say it has destroyed Germany. It has not made Germany great, but it has destroyed Germany. It has destroyed all our beautiful medieval cities through the bombardments when Hitler was not willing to capitulate, to give up in the war. He really destroyed Germany. He destroyed 60 millions of lives. He killed 27 millions in the Soviet Union area alone. I mean, you also made your experience on the Balkans with Hitler. So, and where is the parallel to Alternative for Germany? We respect the sovereignty of each country around the world. We respect the sovereignty of Serbia. That's why they cherish us a lot. We respect the sovereign way of Hungary steering its society and doing its politics nationally. We respect the United States, we respect Russia, we respect China, even though we plea for a totally different system. We don't like communism, we don't like totalitarian control. And that is what characterizes China. But, well, we don't mess in their internal affairs. So where is the parallel to those dark times of Germany? It was socialism, National Socialism. It was the Workers' Party. And so socialism always tends to be totalitarian because socialism can't live with criticism. We love criticism. We invite people to do criticism. We plea for free media. And they always tell people, we want to fight media, we want to fight democracy. No, we want to have referenda for all the most important subjects. They should be decided by the people themselves. So where is the threat for democracy? It's a total hoax. It's a complete set of lies. And some people are still caught in that. But that's the difference we are seeing now. People are now emancipating themselves from this cage of thinking which has nothing to do with reality. And people will wake up more and more, and the others will be left alone as liars, outright liars. And in the end, they will have to adapt to our positions because they are just rational. And then we can also collaborate, or they will just perish. I mean, there are many parties in Europe which have just disappeared because they didn't understand that it's time of crisis and you need new responses. And if you are not able as a party to react, then you will disappear from the surface of your political scene in the country. And this is also just because it's competition. Democracy means competition. And if competition is really free and fair and not like an unlevel playing field, then it's okay. But here in Germany, we have a very, very unlevel playing field.
Well,
against AFD.
Okay, this takes us to the next topic. Let's talk about Germany today. What, to quote Shakespeare, is rotten in Germany?
Sorry, I didn't really understand that.
What are the biggest problems of the country in which many Croats and other from former Yugoslavia live today? What are your biggest problems? Yeah,
I mean, to be precise, I have also in my district party faction Croatian friend who is member in our party since many years. And he's also very convinced that AFD is the best party for Germany. He's a very ardent supporter of us. Radomir is his name, you know him. And he also feels, of course, that the purchasing power is fading away. Things are getting more and more expensive. And the pensions, also the salaries, do not rise enough. We have almost the highest electricity costs in the world. We have almost the highest taxes in the world. We have very high and we have a very low rate of flat owners. So people are not able to form their own capital as a bolster to live when they are in pensionist age. We have, at large, we are in the lower third of wealth compared to the other nations in Europe. We have rising levels of criminality, of crime in our streets. And this also influences, of course, the perception of safety, which is, of course, subjective, but it is relevant for the people. If you feel safe or if you are afraid to send out your daughter to the streets in the evenings. I mean, young people like to go out. I also have 2 young daughters, and you just feel afraid. So this is just a certain selection, cross-cutting through the problems that people feel in Germany, and not only Germans, but also foreigners, also migrants who have come here and who had to obey the rules in the past decades. When they arrived, they had to find work, they had to pay taxes. So they also made Germany great. But now they see, oh, everything is being destroyed. And the ones who illegally cross the borders now get everything for free. And when I, as a migrant, arrived 30 or 50 years ago, I had to build up everything on my own. Nothing was just given to me for granted. And people are fed up with this unfair treatment. And it's nothing about xenophobic sentiments. It's just about the sense of justice.
This is interesting because the former Croatian foreign minister told me that even Turks who have lived in Germany for years voted for the AFD.
Yeah, that's correct. For example, my best friend from childhood on, Mehmet, he's Turkish. He was the only boy of a Turkish family, the only Turkish family in my village. And so we became friends, and till today we are best friends. And he also says, the only party I can vote for is the AFD. But when I talk to my colleagues at Audi, he works in the car industry, they look at him like this. How come that there are also Turkish Nazis? How can you vote for AFD? And he says, come on, you are so stupid. How can you not see how your country has changed? And how can you call them Nazis who are just standing for rational policies, politics? So he's also very frustrated. But this is amazing to see that no matter where people come from, what is the color of their skin, the ones who just look at the things in a rational way and not in an ideological way, they come to the same political conclusions also. And those people are also welcome to join Alternative for Germany. We have, for example, a parliamentarian at the state of Hessen, and she's from a refugee family from Vietnam. And she's member of parliament now, a young, beautiful lady. And she was selected among the white, elderly, male, other members of parliament of Hessen from Alternative for Germany to be their candidate for the vice presidency in the Hessen parliament. But what happened? The other parties rejected her and didn't vote for her because Alternative for Germany is too xenophobic. Come on, it's crazy. It's just crazy. She's a Vietnamese girl. She looks like Vietnamese, and she's one of our best parliamentarians. So we also selected her to be vice president. And that shows that in reality, we just deal with people as they are and not how they look.
Everything started 10 years ago with Merkel's famous statement, "Wir schaffen das," we can do it.
Yeah.
It was the beginning. Did the Germans regret it?
I think so. I think many Germans regretted it because you could clearly see that in 2015, there was a real euphoria to help migrants, to assist them, to integrate into society. And this is reality in Germany. We welcome foreigners and we believe that they also want to be part of our society. But after a while, we saw that the influx of migrants would never stop. And we saw that more and more crime was also present in our streets through those migrants. And then people got more and more reluctant and frustrated. And nowadays it's very hard to find people who engage themselves in aiding new refugees, integrating into society. And to be honest, it's not a solution to try to bring everyone who goes through some hardship to Germany and try to allow them to live on solidarity of the other taxpayers. You should solve the problems where they rose, where they really can be solved, and where they can allow people to have a better future in their home countries. And this also brings me to one very, very important point that the Western governments and Western media tends to overlook, of course, on purpose. And that is the fact that Western governments, under also the shield of NATO, have destroyed some of those countries where most of the refugees came from. We just need to take the example of Libya. In 2011, it was bombarded by NATO. Till date, it's a failed country, and there are slave markets in Libya where Black people who try to get across the Mediterranean to Europe are enslaved because they cannot afford the living there, and they need several thousands of euros to pay the human traffickers to bring them on the Mediterranean Sea, where then refugee rescue NGOs take them on board and bring them to Europe. So that's really inhumane, and it was driven by the West and by the bad action towards those countries, destroying them first, unrooting those people, and then they flee to Germany or to Europe, and then we think we are so humane to help those people. Leave them alone. Let their countries thrive, support their development. They would never leave their countries if their homes get not touched by military interventions against international law.
Okay, so what to do? What to do?
What to do is quite simple. Stop those military interventions. Stop the sanctions regimes against those countries like Syria. Help them to rebuild. Send back also the qualified migrants who have learned German, learned some additional skills here, and support them with development cooperation funds to rebuild their countries. And I just take the example of medical doctors. Our health minister, Professor Dr. Karl Lauterbach, said, no, we will not send back any of the 6,000 medical doctors from Syria who have come to Germany, because we need medical doctors. But it's really a theft of human capital. And it deprives Syria of its right to have their doctors and their most skilled personnel back. If you ask the Syrian government, also Bashar al-Assad before, they all asked to send back their most precious human capital. And they need it. Just to give you a figure, in Aleppo, there were 800 inhabitants per one doctor before the war, which is very little already. And now they have only one doctor for 7,000 inhabitants. So those who have fled to Europe or to the United States or wherever, they are desperately needed by that society. So it would be just fair, in order to send development funding to China, a country which is already well ahead of Germany in terms of industrial production, even in science, they have space missions, etc. Let's focus that development funding, that development aid on Syria. Let's rebuild hospital structures there with the help of remigrating and supported medical doctors coming from Syria, speaking the language, knowing the conditions. And you will even create a future market, for example, for German medical technical equipment. If we manage to send back only half of the Syrians to Syria, to invest there, to rebuild their country, we will have 500,000 of the over 1 million of Syrians who then would live there, speak German, be ideal partners for German politics, for German economy, and there would be intensive relationships between Germany and Syria. And Syria would be, geopolitically spoken, like a bridgehead for German influence in the Middle East, the most resource-rich region of the earth. So also in terms of geopolitics, it makes sense to rebuild those countries, to remigrate, to send back those people. And not only those who have committed crimes and are constitute a danger on our streets. Of course, those need to be sent back first, because we need safety on our streets. People are really in fear now after so many attacks. But it's also very important to rebuild those countries. It's a humanitarian obligation of Germany, I would say.
You mentioned economic. Germany is in economic crisis. Your economy was based on Russian energy resources. What now?
Really, yeah. It was also based, most of all, on the combustion engine, the car industry. The combustion engine was invented in Germany. We have over 150 years of engineering tradition in that field. And we have always built the best combustion engines in the world, no matter what size. And now the European Union has decided to ban combustion engines completely from the European market, only from the European market, by 2035. So in just 10 years, no combustion engine cars shall be sold in Europe. So what does the industry do? Of course, they migrate their factories for combustion engines to China or to United States. And what are we left with? With misery, poverty, because we cannot compete in the field of electric mobility, electric cars, because China has already before scaled up their production in electric cars. It's quite simple. You don't need that much engineering skills. And they can produce those cars even in a more fancy fashion than we, and much cheaper. So we are just destroying our core industry, and so many jobs are related to this core industry. And this is insane. This is complete nonsense. And that drives the crisis, among other factors. Also, of course, the cutting off of Russian energy provision. This is one important factor too. And also we smashed our nuclear power plants for nothing. And now we depend on the import of nuclear power from France, from Czech Republic, but we do not produce it here at home anymore. So we have to pay for it. And this is just insane. This is just crazy. And that has to do with, a general German attitude. Teach us about a global problem, may it be real or not. We think that we Germans are responsible and we alone should solve this problem for the whole planet. And this is, of course, nonsense. You should see what is your position as an emitter of only 1.8% of the global CO2 emissions. So we should not destroy our industry just for that purpose of saving something of that little bit of CO2 emission. And we should maybe also look a little bit more calmly to the environmental situation and climate change situation. We all know it's fact that during the Roman Empire times, the climate was much warmer than today. Also in the medieval times and in the remote history of the planet, it was much warmer. And there was no industry, of course. There was no cars emitting CO2. So there are other much more relevant factors driving climate change than CO2. But Germans just go nuts because they are being told, you shall believe in the quasi-religion of CO2.
Germany was, once upon a time, Germany was promised land.
Yeah.
Is it still?
I mean, we have such an excellent structure that has been built up over decades because the people are really, they take care of, they are very responsible, they are hardworking, they are quite innovative, they are skilled, they are learning, hardworking. So there is an excellent basis, which takes a long time to be destroyed. So the good thing is there is still a lot of structure left. So you can save Germany if you just steer the whole tanker in the right direction as soon as possible. But the erosion is continuing day by day, year by year. And the longer it takes to make a U-turn, the greater the damage will be. But I still believe that once Germans have woken up, and this process is ongoing, as we had debated in the beginning of our talk, then Germans will also make an effort to rebuild. And so I believe in a positive future of Germany, but the challenge is yet to be taken. So I cannot promise how the future will look like.
What about your agriculture? How do your farmers live? I have read Germany's farmers want to milk cows, not fill out forms.
Yeah, exactly. Filling out forms is something that the EU loves. If you have ever applied for EU funding, you may know how bureaucratic it can be. It's amazing, but not only in farms, but also in hospitals, also owners of restaurants. Everyone has to fill out forms and report and document. Even the industry now has to report on everything, what they buy and build into their products, etc. It's really crazy. And that's something that, of course, poses a lot of friction on the industrial process, on the production process in agriculture also. And it's the exaggerated environmental standards that they put on the shoulders of the farmers. So, for example, some pesticides, they are allowed in other EU countries, but not in Germany. So the farmers here have to use more cost-intensive methods, more work, labor-intensive methods, and the neighboring countries produce the same agricultural products with pesticides we are not allowed to use. So it's not a fair competition, and our farmers have to carry really a very strong burden in the market, and they are paid very unfair prices. So, for example, when you buy bread or a little bun in the bakery, only 5% of what you pay is going to the farmer's pocket. But he does the most of the work, most of the important work. And so this is very unfair, and farmers get more and more frustrated because they see that they earn more money when they allow a windmill to be built on their farmland, or when they allow huge solar fields being built on their agricultural fields or meadows. This is frustrating, of course, because if your work is not being appreciated, it frustrates you. And farmers are very proud of their profession, because since millennia they have fed societies, and without their work nobody could have lived.
Let us shift back to geopolitics. Mr. Merz said that Germany and Europe must become independent from USA. Is that possible? I mean, Germany is full of American military bases. What would this independence look like in that regard?
Well, Friedrich Merz is crazy, just crazy as the other EU globalist factions who rule most of the countries still. I'm not talking about Hungary and Viktor Orban, but the collective West, which always shared the same values, at least as they said, is now breaking apart. And I say this is good because those values were not true. They were fake values. It was the value of oppressing opponents in other parts of the world. When a government was not willing to share their resource riches with the West, then governments were toppled. Color revolutions were launched. Even presidents were killed. Military interventions were made. So that were the collective values of the collective West. Yeah, that was the case. And now the leading power of the West, United States, changed course. And it got on the same course as Hungary, for example, as the alternative for Germany in Germany, as opposition party. And they have given up their reluctance, which Donald Trump had in his first term. Now he offends the government of Germany and sides with the opposition party. Viktor Orban does the same thing, but just in a little more diplomatic way. He invites Alice Weidel as our chancellor candidate, as if she was the leader of Germany. And with symbolism like making common press conference with the German flag and Hungarian flag at the side. And this shows that the West now is really breaking apart. And there are two different parts of the West. The one under the EU globalist rule, which now tries to weaponize its politics even further and confront Russia alone in Ukraine. And the other powers like Donald Trump's United States, like Viktor Orban's Hungary, like in Germany, the part represented by Alternative for Germany, and of course, many other countries also in your region, they side each and support each other, and they build a bridge towards the BRICS world. Building a bridge not only to Russia to end the conflict, but also to China. Trump has presented a proposal. He said, I want to cut the military budget by 40% in 5 years. Is Russia willing to join us? Is China willing to join us? And imagine how great this would be if the leading military powers agreed to reduce their tensions through diplomacy, reducing at the same time, of course, their security risks, and then also reducing their need to invest public money, taxpayers' money, into weapons, into a military system. This will allow to use more taxpayers' money for future-oriented investments, like in education, like in health, like in infrastructure. Bridges are collapsing in Germany already, so we need that money. And you can also invest it in lowering taxes, leaving more to the people to be wealthier. So I think this is an excellent development that the West now starts turning. America first in this good direction. We are following suit, and we cannot be offended any longer as Alternative for Germany being Putin's puppets. No, now we are Trump's puppets because he has understood that our concepts to change the direction which was leading us to more and more war danger in Europe was right. So we had this position first, and then Trump took it over. But we are really glad that we are not alone anymore, but that we have a very powerful friend on our side. And that helped us, and that also broke a little bit the firewall, I would say, behind which we were caught in Germany. And people said, come on, this Elon Musk is not an idiot. Otherwise, he wouldn't have earned $100 billion of dollars, and he couldn't steer the most powerful and innovative companies in the world. So if he says only the AFD can save Germany, I should rather look twice at their program and look what they really stand for.
But I think you forget Trump can be Putin's puppet. They
Yes, they are crazy enough to tell you this bullshit. I mean, the United States, they maintain 800 military bases around the globe. And look at the number of the Russian military bases. Is it 3 or is it 4 outside Russia? But it's nothing compared to the military power of the United States. The NATO allies combined have a budget, military budget of about 10 to 13 times the budget of the Russian military. Come on. How could Putin ever abuse Trump as his puppet? They are just two politicians with a sense for reality and also a sense for the value of peace, when no people have to die in senseless wars, inhumane wars.
Yes, people in Ukraine would not agree with you.
I know people in Ukraine would not agree with me, but people in Ukraine, to some extent, have also been brainwashed by the same media as we in the West. And if you ask those people in Ukraine who are not given any voice any longer, but since a few years already, they totally agree with me. And they say, let's stop this bloody war at once. I have talked to such Ukrainian people who have fled from Ukraine and came to Germany because they wanted to save their lives from this useless and very, very sad war. And so we don't know what Ukrainians really think, because they are punished if they voice the wrong convictions. All the opposition parties have been banned, have been forbidden in Ukraine with the start of the war. All the critical and free TV stations have been closed in Ukraine long ago. So you cannot really know what people think, and what they think may be just also steered by the government propaganda.
Professor Rothfuß, are there many Ukrainians in Germany?
Yes, there are 1.1 million already.
Okay. I would like to ask you something about Ursula von der Leyen. She is German, and she is ex-minister of Defense. She was German Minister of Defense. What do you think about her political work? Now she is chief of European Commission.
Well, she is the European leader of the globalist faction. What can you expect from her? She doesn't have nationality. She just wants to bring forward the United States of Europe. She helped to abolish German army, Bundeswehr, by mismanaging this army. And now she tries to build up an EU army, which then would be commanded by a defense commissioner in Brussels without any democratic control, without democratic legitimation. So for me, she poses the greatest danger to free democratic nations in Europe. She was just chosen again as commissioner because she did a great job for the globalists. She was corrupt enough to control her, because they could criticize her, let her fall at any point of time. Because you can be sure that her short message, with which she ordered 1.8 billion doses of COVID vaccines from Pfizer, costing the taxpayer 35 billion euros. This short message surely is somewhere out, and they could use it against her. But she says, oh, I have lost this message. But this is amazing. She buys without any institutional legitimation such an amount of vaccination doses that then have to be just thrown away. And nobody criticizes her. She doesn't need to go to court for that. This is so unjust. And that is why people are often so frustrated, because they just feel that they cannot do anything. The politicians are just untouchable and they can do whatever they want. The media tells you, oh, they are doing great job, and that's it. That frustrates people. This is not democracy, because democracy would mean that the people rule and not such an elitarian class.
It should be like that.
It should be. We have to claim it back.
Yeah. My last question. Germany was a great friend of Croatia in the early 90s. We had our homeland war then. Later, many Croats moved to Germany. You mentioned, you know, some of them. What do you think about Croats?
Oh, I love Croatia. When I spend holidays there, I'm always thrilled to see how beautiful the houses are, how people take care of really keeping their houses in order, renovating everything nicely, building nice public spaces. I mean, you have such a lovely nature and also lovely culture and dishes and everything. I love Croatia. I just had a screensaver the last days with Croatian coastline, the islands and blue sea. Oh, it's so lovely, really. It's a beautiful country. And yeah, I think we can be great partners also in the future once Germany makes really reasonable, sensible politics again. I hope we will be great friends and we will make Europe great again together, the Croats and the Germans.
Okay, that would be a short message for the end, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Professor Rothfuß, thank you very much for this interview.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.